Welcome to Get Moving TV. I'm Dr. Chris Landon and I serve as your host. Here in Ventura County, we have an incredible healthcare system spread throughout the county, and central to that is Ventura County Medical Center. We're seeing more and more focus, especially with the Affordable Care Act, on outcomes. How does the care actually result in a good outcome? Patients not having to return to the hospital, patients who are safe in the hospital, who don't have falls, patients who don't have pressure ulcers, patients who don't have DVTs, don't have clots in their legs. So anything we can do to get a step ahead of that is really resolved on humans, and humans are fallible. One of the problems I was trying to solve is after someone is intubated in an intensive care unit, what can we do to prevent the other effects, the problems with urinary tract infections from catheters being in, from ventilator tubes being in too long, and the whole medical community is looking at this, and we're looking at this at Ventura County Medical Center as well. One of the solutions that came up, and I'm part of the Intelligent Hospital Association, is turning to technology. And so with me today is Eric Williams from Leaf Technologies. So Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So as I was searching for a solution to one particular problem, and that's hospital-associated pressure ulcers, I came across your company, and unfortunately the president of the company was flying down, is stuck due to a technical generator error up in San Francisco, which seems almost ironic that here we are trying to be a technology-filled society. So let's just start actually with the technology, and then we'll get back to how you got into your job and kind of the arc of your own life. So what's the name of your president of your company?
The president of our company is Dr. Barrett Larson.
So Dr. Barrett Larson, what made him think that he needed to search out a technological solution to this?
Well, essentially, he was doing residency at Stanford University, and he had a patient that he came across that had a 40% burn wound on their body. And unfortunately, the patient succumbed to sepsis as a result of a pressure ulcer. So in actuality, the patient did survive the burn wounds, lived for a little while, and then he went back to check up on her, and she had sepsis, and then soon after passed away. And
so that's what annoys us as physicians, and that's where we try and seek solutions. But we don't have degrees in electrical engineering. We really are pushing the STEM, the whole science, technology, engineering, mathematics in our schools. And so how did he deal with this frustration? Here he saved somebody's life who has 40% of his body burned, and yet something as simple as being turned every 2 hours, 20 degrees, didn't occur. That patient got a pressure ulcer just from their body lying there, decreased blood supply. So how did he deal with that? I mean, did you go home and did you give up medicine? I mean,
no, actually he had an idea. Patient wearables is actually where our society is. It's the new thing. It's the really hot thing. So essentially he had an idea that he could use accelerometers. Actually, he and Daniel Shin were both in residency, and they both created this product. And essentially, they knew about accelerometers. Accelerometers are in our cell phone. That's what makes the screen go side to side, et cetera. And so they thought, why not apply this to patient care to help save lives? And thus, Leaf was born.
So, one of the things, again, people are human and take coffee breaks, and we don't try not to Facebook. We really want to make sure people are paying attention. Sometimes they're just so overwhelmed that they just can't get that done. And patients weigh more now too. They're trying to be a 5'2" nurse who weighs 100 pounds and trying to turn a 300-pound person. And we have to make all these new adjustments. All our wheelchairs are wider, our CAT scans have to be bigger, MRI scans bigger. So how does this work how does it remind the nurse to do this?
Well, essentially everything functions through this sensor here. The sensor actually communicates with our wireless network every 10 seconds. So this sensor actually adheres to the patient's upper torso, communicates information about a patient's position, orientation, as well as movement. So it'll monitor them on their right side, their back, left side, upright positions, as well as prone. That information then goes to the nurse's station, and it's associated with a timer for that specific patient. So it lets the nurse know through a color system as well as time when it's time to turn the patient, or if there's a turn even coming up, for example.
So it seems so simple. I mean, I'm sure everybody does a perfect job. Have you looked at any hospitals around the Stanford area? I mean, when they start these things out, I'm sure they strapped their smartphone to their chest to see how things worked. We did that with we have a device that beats the mucus out of children with cystic fibrosis. And I just stuck my smartphone in and did a little program, and we could see whether or not they were being shaken. So any local hospitals, they just do it at Stanford or?
As a matter of fact, we've did our initial studies at El Camino Hospital in Northern California. It was a multi-month study, and where we established a baseline of 64% turn compliance. Once they intervened with our product, it went up to 98%.
Look, of course, numbers like that get to be unbelievable, but now you've got a way to document it, and I think what's important is it helps. It's the feedback for them too. We have all kinds of programs. Check this box on this blackboard, or educational events. But here with technology, finally, it's kind of like having a step counter. You start to know how many steps you take.
Right. We come with the philosophy that if you can monitor it, you can manage it. So without a system like ours, we've looked at various studies, and in those studies we see that turn compliance, for example, ranges between 29% and 66%. But for a majority of our customers or clients, we get them at least in the low 90s.
So for these hospital-associated pressure ulcers, now we can take that part off the table in terms of what we're worried about. Now, one of the things that I'd seen from you was that the director of nursing could see all 10 or 20 stations at once and maybe see a pattern to things as well. So it's, in terms of management, how else are you guys looking at managing it, taking this information not just as, time to turn, but what other things, interventions can be made?
As far as interventions, it definitely gives hospital management, for example, the ability to see if they have enough staff on the floor, for example. Yeah. So they can use our reports to see if compliance is dipping in certain areas, which is a problem, and have additional staff come in and help the staff turn those patients. But beyond that, as far as patient metrics, HapUse is just the beginning of where we're going with this particular product. With this same device, there's different patient metrics that will come out of it. The very next one that we plan on is mobility, patient mobility or ambulation. So there's certain protocols, like for example, if a patient has surgery, sometimes physicians do want that patient to walk around a certain amount of time, and at least with our system, that can be monitored as well as documented, but the great thing is the nurse wouldn't have to chart it. It would just go right to the patient's electronic medical records chart.
We're doing work with adherence. We put a Bluetooth device in a medication delivery device. These patients may be 100 miles away. I know whether or not they're taking their medicine 3 times a day. And when I talk to them, I take it on Friday. I need to take it 3 times a day. So we call this our machine-on-machine mankind interface. And if you spell that out, it spells mommy. And sometimes if they're not compliant enough, I call their mommies up and make them go in. So the director of nursing can really get an idea. And sometimes it might just be change of shift or medications having to be delivered. And with physical therapy, they were too tired to get out of bed and the like. So it sounds like you've got a great device. How's it going? How long has the company been around, and what kind of impact are you having in Northern and Southern California?
Well, basically, our company's been around for a couple years, but we've been selling for a little over 1.5 years, and we have had quite a few installations. We do have some accounts here in Southern California, as well as Northern California, and some in the Northwest as well, the Seattle, Washington area. So we're doing pretty good to start out.
Well, obviously, we're going to be doing a trial at my hospital, and I think we're pretty committed. It pretty much sells itself. What does something like this cost?
Well, essentially, our product, what we ask is per patient, $199, but that includes all installation of our system. So that's just ongoing. But when it comes to price, that's just what we ask. But we work on a case-by-case basis.
Well, in a hospital where an aspirin costs $199, it seems like. What kind of savings are there? Oh,
substantial. When you think about pressure ulcers, they could get literally in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they could be quite expensive for a hospital, and that's something that the hospital would have to pay for. So when you think about the cost of this particular device, protecting the patient, thinking about them having a nice quality visit. You don't want any adverse events like a pressure ulcer popping up, because that makes it rough on the patient as well as their family, because it takes a long time for pressure ulcers to heal. So when you think about the value that you're bringing to the table, this really doesn't cost all that much.
Exactly. Well, thank you for that piece there. Well, how did you get in this business? I'm always looking. This is an adult community education. We have people who just are still trying to find themselves, what career they may end up learning to Photoshop or learning to run cameras. Or how did you end up where you are? Where did you get your degree?
I graduated from UC Santa Barbara, just up the road here, with a degree in business economics. Came out, worked at a payroll and tax company, and then I noticed a lot of people springboarding into this thing called medical sales. And there were certain great benefits associated with it, so that really attracted me, especially because I've always been into watching surgical shows, for example. Blood or things of that nature don't gross me out. It's actually, the human body is fascinating. So actually, while working on my business degree, I had one class where I did have the privilege of working on cadavers, things of that nature. So it was really exciting. So hospital plus, I kind of have a enterprising or outgoing personality. Love business. So it's just a marriage between the two, business as well as medicine, combined. I just love the setting, so it works well for me.
I know there's a process with the FDA too. This whole thing around Theranos and the girl who just seemed to know everybody and knew it was on Sand Hill Road and persuaded Walgreen that her magical test on one drop of blood would work, and it turned out they were sneaking the blood off to real machines. So the whole startup company stuff is pretty tough too. So how are they in terms of their funding and how are they doing?
We have some wonderful private investors. So as far as funding, that part is great. The biggest challenge, I think, is the fact that we're new. So, just getting our name out there and working to get through some of these committees. And, since it is IT related, there can be some challenges getting past those teams. But one thing to know is our system is very easy to install, and it plays well with other things that are in the patient rooms. We haven't had any issues whatsoever interacting with other machines.
I'm looking certainly for an Internet of Things that helps me find my way around the hospital too. So it's a great technology. Well, Eric, thank you so much for your time. I'm sorry your president couldn't be here, but you've done such an excellent job. I really feel like I know the company.
Well, thank you.
So thank you for coming.
Appreciate your time.
Well, Ventura, we're going to be right back. You're going to hear more about how Ventura innovates. It's not just happening in Stanford. Ventura, welcome back. We have something called VACE Innovates here, and with me today is Dennis Huston. He's going to talk a little bit about something that they came up with, but just the whole program too. Dennis, what's your role here at the Ventura Adult Community Education?
I am a CAD CAM teacher. We teach computer-aided design and computer-aided manufacturing, and get the students into a design field of some sort.
So what kind of background did that take? Were you in private practice or whatever it is, engineering practice at first?
Years ago, I worked for a company in Camarillo. We built and manufactured and designed revision prosthesis, hips, knees, things of that nature, where if they had to come out, the doctor maybe would have to resorb some more bone, and we could make these custom devices to fit the bill.
With the VACE Innovates, tell me a little bit about who's part of VACE Innovates.
Well, that is a program where we got some grant money from through VACE Innovates. All the schools did, and we got a certain amount, and that definitely, because the manufacturing is one of the gateway paths that they want to get going, so we were able to afford an additional 3D printer for the classroom.
Oh, I was with Milken Foundation the other day, and they said, well, Ventura County's like 11th with venture capital dollars, but on a per-person basis, we're number 5 in the state in Ventura County because of Baxter and Amgen. We have all these retired engineers, all these little potential for incubators. So I was talking to Mike Powers about this as well, and Harold Edwards from Limonera. You know, that we really need to get manufacturing going here, and this kind of thing really makes a difference. Well, with this new machine, I showed you, I had my little pill producer there, and made it the local library, and it just never really worked very well. And because my patients, when they take enzymes in public, they have to open everything up and put it in, and we just made a little Pez dispenser, and you were able to make it work because the precision on your machine was just so much better.
Yeah, you get what you pay for when it comes to a 3D printer. I mean, it's really nice that you can get them under $1,000, and that the children coming up in engineering have something that they can actually, an idea that they had that they can print off and take home and show mom and dad, and perhaps an employer down the road. You know, it speaks big words. Yeah.
Well, I think part of that grant was to get this, so can you tell me a little bit about what's going on here?
Well, what we have come up with, there's a company in England, it's called Enable. And what they do is they've come up with several different designs for children's prosthesis. Now, I'm not sure of the different conditions, but they have to have a part of a palm. It's for kids with birth defects and things of that nature, or below the elbow amputation, something like that. And it can be from a trauma or a birth defect, you know, either way. And a child will grow out of a device in 6 months or a year or so, so it's prohibitive for them, the family, to keep affording these over and over. These guys have come up with a way to print these off on 3D printers, and we can make them for under $50 each and give them away.
Well, that's we do international travel. We have Ventura Global Health and like, and so we're really looking forward to working with them. I was talking to Carolyn, the superintendent here, that also gives your kids an opportunity as students to work with people throughout the world, that it's a small place.
Exactly. What we try to do throughout the school is create a real world working environment, so that when they go out to work, they have already worked in that kind of a field, in that environment. And everybody is getting behind this. Everybody wants to have fun with this. They don't want me to have all the fun. No. They want me to share it, and I will, you know. And it goes out, you know, where they go out of the room and they're paying back to the community. They're not just achieving their goals and what they wanted to get, what they wanted to go, but they're actually helping the community and lift their chins a little higher, you know.
Well, Dennis, thank you so much for bringing this program here, for the students that you support, both emotionally and mentally too. And let me borrow the hand here for a second.
So show them how that works.
Yeah, so my patients are going to be looking at this. So Ventura, for now, Ventura, we're going to be right back and sign up for CAD CAM, help us out. VC innovates, help support them. We'll be right back. Ventura, welcome back. I'm here with Ian Mayta with Studio and Cine Productions. I've known Ian for more than 20 years, we'll just say that, so that made it a very long time. But I asked you on the show because we've interacted quite a bit. Dr. Starr has been on here previously with our cleft lip and palate program, and we asked you to make a little video about that so that people up here could really understand what's going on. Can you describe how you storyboarded that kind of video?
Yeah. Well, that video just was possible through my dad, he works down there with a clinic. And down there they open up a clinic every Wednesday. And my dad suggested, hey, we should make a video because that's why I studied. And so I went there, had my camera, visited all of them, and started trying to find a story. And then we realized that the story was that these people actually travel so far from all around the country, and actually the statistics of Honduras is incredible. There's like four, I would say like, I don't know how many like people need this care. So we actually decided to go into the countryside. And that turned into this incredible story I did.
Well, the whole concept of the moon eating your lip there, but really what you did in terms of finding them in the village, the impact that that child would never be married or have a job because of this physical deformity, which had nothing to do with their lives, and then following that ox cart down the path into the taxi cab, which was entirely foreign to that mother, and then into the city. Dan Pillay from Pillay Law Offices, thank you for the money that he's provided. Just $50 brought that patient and their parents to the hospital, had the surgery done, they stayed overnight, but that video just made all the difference. It's how you communicate. In terms of water, I think you've done one about water as well. How did that come about?
Yeah, so this friend of mine from college approached me, and he was working for a nonprofit called Water Wells for Africa. And he told me, would you be part of our team going to Africa, Malawi? And I said, of course, yes, because I love to travel and experience new cultures. But I didn't know how difficult it would be to be away from family for 3 months and in Africa. And just, there's like even an instance where I almost like was taken from the back of a pickup truck. Yeah. So there's like all these dangers that come with filming. Yeah. And even in Honduras, we were pretty careful with filming as well.
And then you had a film in the International Film. Tell us about that up in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, so a friend of mine and this other friend from Colorado, actually we started this production company in Santa Barbara, California. And through that, we decided to start collaborating. And actually our first film or short film was one that was entered to the Santa Barbara Film Festival this year, 2016. And we got in. And that was a pretty incredible experience to be part of that, that stage, because the way people were asking me, what did you win? And I said, well, we didn't really win anything. But we actually won. The way I explained it is like those shows in Alaska where they have those people go in and kill those wolves, like the young boys. Well, I felt that way. I felt like I'd killed a wolf. Yes. And now I had been in on, now like all the hunters were like, okay, you're part of us. So that's pretty incredible.
And the film itself, can you tell just a little bit about the plot? Because I think we're linking it into...
Yeah. So it was about this friend of mine called Taki, and he's from Liberia. And he endured the Civil War. He survived it. And now he had just come back to California and saw how beautiful the waves were. And he said, wow, that's incredible. Like back in Liberia, the waves and the ocean was about death. And here's about life. All the people are having a great time. Ventura, Santa Barbara, all throughout California. And he decided to actually learn how to confront his fears. And through that, all the memories of the past kind of came. And he was able to understand why he was here in California.
Well, there's a scene in there, and we're such a sheltered culture where he's crying over a dead body, and all he sees is that one dead body in the massacre, and his mother says, "Look up."
Yes.
There's not just one. Look up. There's not just one. And what does she tell him that he carried through life there?
He said, "Save your tears." And for him, it's been a struggle. But in the movie, he says, if you struggle, then you have failed. And for us, it was a struggle to go through and try to figure out how to get a film in the film festival. And I was like realizing once I surrendered, and I said, well, this film is gonna happen or not. Then we found results, just like in the movie. He said, just when you struggle, that's actually your failure. And I realized sometimes in life you just have to just go patient and gentle, and then you'll see results. Steady hand and just consistency.
And look beyond. Well, in starting a production company, of course, we have our students here who are doing the production. Tell us about forming a production company.
Yeah, it's very difficult because you have to find the right team. And a lot of film schools don't really teach you the essentials of actually the process. Yeah. So it's incredible to have students actually go through that. And I tell people always, like people come up to me, like, you know, like my young brother's going through school right now. I tell him, don't look at yourself as a student right now. Look at yourself as actually a professional individual that's actually doing things right now. Even if you don't have all the equipment, use the camera that you have, your grandmother gave you, go out there, start filming, shooting, editing, and you start seeing things happen.
So where are you going to go? All these kinds of things, of course, require a steady paycheck there.
Yes.
So what opportunities are there once you've gone, because you're a photographer, cinematographer, you speak 4 different languages,
Yeah.
But you want to live in Santa Barbara where,
Yeah.
so what kind of opportunities out there? I know Brooks Photography says, oh, well, we'll get you in the fashion business, and then they end up working at whatever, Old Navy, doing clothes. It's not quite the fashion business, so.
Yeah, that's one part that's very difficult. Even right now, I'm 26, started this company, realized it's not so like flashy as most people think. Oh, you have a production company, requires a lot of work, and they said money, finances. So all these last 3 years, as I was working freelance, I realized I had to pick up other jobs, jobs that weren't really related to my field. But at the same time, I realized, yeah, these all help me towards my goal. And to this point, I've seen like this artist would always say, like, I'm first a painter, and then I work in other areas. He would always think I'm always working on these other areas, and then he would say he was a painter second. So I've been switching that in my mind, like I'm a filmmaker first, whatever else I do, that's just to help supplement my filmmaking.
Well, thank you, Ian. Ventura, VC innovates, high tech and high technology. We need high touch as well. And don't forget Ventura, get moving.